You're not in jail. You're somewhere worse. You're in a comfortable cage, and the terrifying part, you've grown to love it. This isn't about being physically trapped. This is about the invisible barriers you've built around your potential, the soft walls of routine that feel safe but slowly suffocate your growth, the golden handcuffs that keep you chained to mediocrity while making you feel grateful for the privilege. Most men live their entire lives in this cage. They call it stability. They call it being responsible. They call it being realistic. They call it having their priorities straight. But what it really is fear disguised as wisdom, cowardice dressed up as maturity. You wake up in the same bed at the same time, with the same alarm tone that's been grating your soul for the past 3 years. You shower with the same routine, brush your teeth in the same pattern, eat the same breakfast while scrolling through the same apps, checking the same notifications from the same people, living the same limited lives. You drive the same route to the same job, past the same buildings, hitting the same traffic lights, listening to the same radio stations, playing the same songs that remind you of the same memories from when you thought your life would be different. You sit at the same desk, in the same cubicle or office, doing the same tasks that require just enough of your brain to keep you occupied, but not enough to truly challenge. You have the same meetings with the same people, discussing the same problems with the same solutions that never quite solve anything. You come home to the same house, watch the same shows, have the same conversations, eat the same dinner, and go to bed thinking about the same concerns, the same plans that never materialize, the same dreams you've been postponing for the past decade. And you tell yourself, this is life. This is what adults do. This is responsibility. This is success. This is what you worked for, but here's what you don't see. Every day you stay comfortable, you're making a choice. You're choosing the cage over the unknown, safety over growth, predictability over possibility, the familiar pain over the unfamiliar pleasure of becoming who you could be. The cage isn't evil. It doesn't twirl its mustache and laugh maniacally while plotting your demise. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's kind, it's considerate, it's designed with your comfort in mind. It keeps you safe, fed, entertained, validated. It gives you just enough stimulation to feel alive, just enough challenge to feel engaged, just enough progress to feel like you're moving forward. But you're not moving forward, you're moving in circles. Comfortable, predictable, suffocating circles that get smaller each year as your world shrinks to accommodate your shrinking ambitions. The cage provides everything you think you need: security, routine, predictability, a sense of control. It offers you a trade-off that seems reasonable on the surface. Give up your wild dreams, your unrealistic expectations, your childish notions of adventure and possibility, and in return, get a steady paycheck, a mortgage you can afford, a retirement plan, health insurance, and the approval of people who made the same trade. Think about it. When was the last time you did something that genuinely scared you? Not horror movie scared or roller coaster scared, but genuinely terrified you because it mattered, because it could change your life, because it could reveal who you really are beneath all the layers of compromise and accommodation. When did you last feel that electric tension of not knowing if you could handle what's coming next? When did you last push against a boundary that actually mattered? When did you last risk something real for something that could be extraordinary? If you can't remember, you're deeper in the cage than you think. You're not just visiting comfort. You've moved in, you've decorated, you've made it home. The cage has many forms, and it's a master of disguise. It adapts to your personality, your circumstances, your rationalizations. It becomes whatever it needs to be to keep you contained. For some, it's a job that pays well but drains your soul drop by drop, day by day. You stay because it's secure, because you have bills, responsibilities, people depending on you, because change is risky, and risk is irresponsible when you have obligations. So you trade your potential for a paycheck and call it being mature. You sacrifice your dreams on the altar of stability and feel noble about it. You convince yourself that this is temporary, that you're just building a foundation, that someday, when the timing is right, when you have enough saved, when the kids are older, when the market is better, when the stars align, you'll pursue what you really want. But someday never comes because the cage keeps giving you new reasons to stay. For others, it's relationships that have become routine, comfortable, and completely devoid of growth. You're not growing together anymore. You're not challenging each other. You're not exploring new territories of intimacy, adventure, or shared purpose. You're just existing in parallel, like two trains on separate tracks, heading to the same mundane destination. You stay because it's easier than having difficult conversations about what you both really want. It's easier than facing the possibility of growing apart. It's easier than admitting that comfortable isn't the same as happy, and safe isn't the same as satisfied. The conversations become predictable, the routines become sacred, the expectations become limitations, and slowly you both shrink to fit into a relationship that requires less of you each year, until you're living with someone who loves a version of you that no longer exists, and you're loving a version of them that you've convinced yourself is enough. For many, it's habits that feel good in the moment but keep you small in the long run. The endless scrolling through social media, consuming other people's lives instead of creating your own. The binge-watching of series after series, living vicariously through fictional characters who are braver, more interesting, more alive than you've allowed yourself to be. The comfort food that's slowly killing your energy, your health, your self-respect. The weekend drinks that turn into weekday numbing, the entertainment that's become a drug, the distractions that have become a lifestyle. These aren't just habits. They're the bars of your cage. They're the daily choices that keep you contained, that prevent you from feeling the discomfort that might motivate you to change, that keep you satisfied enough to stay dissatisfied. But here's the most insidious part. The cage adapts. It evolves. It's not a static prison. It's a dynamic system that grows with you, that anticipates your growth and contains it before it becomes dangerous. You get promoted, so you think you're progressing, but you're still in the same system, playing by the same rules, limited by the same invisible barriers. The cage just got a better view. You buy a bigger house, a nicer car, upgrade your lifestyle, expand your comfort zone horizontally, but never vertically. Your circumstances change, but your mindset stays the same. Your courage stays the same. Your willingness to take real risks stays the same. Your vision of what's possible stays the same. The cage just got more expensive, more comfortable, more convincing. You start making more money, but you also start spending more money, creating new obligations, new reasons why you can't afford to take risks. The golden handcuffs get heavier, more valuable, more impossible to remove. You gain more responsibilities at work, which makes you feel important and needed, but also more trapped. You become indispensable to a system that doesn't truly value you, essential to a machine that would replace you without hesitation if it served its purposes. The cage convinces you that comfort equals success, that avoiding pain means you're winning, that staying safe is the same as staying smart, that managing risk is the same as managing life. But comfort is not the goal. Growth is. And growth requires discomfort. Comfort is seductive. It whispers sweet lies about how you've earned the right to relax, to stop pushing, to stop dreaming so big. It tells you that wanting more is greedy, that being content is wise, that accepting your limitations is mature. But contentment and complacency are not the same thing. Being grateful for what you have and settling for less than you're capable of are not the same thing. There's a difference between appreciating your journey and ending it prematurely. Every great man in history had to leave his cage. Every single one. They had to step into uncertainty, face rejection, risk failure, endure hardship, confront their fears, challenge the status quo, disappoint people who wanted them to stay small, not because they were reckless, but because they understood something most men never learn. The biggest risk is taking no risk at all. The most dangerous choice is choosing safety over significance. The most costly decision is deciding that who you are now is all you'll ever be. They understood that security is mostly an illusion, that the safe path isn't actually safe, it's just slow. That playing it safe is the most dangerous game you can play because you're guaranteed to lose everything that matters. Your potential, your purpose, your passion, your power. Your comfortable cage is costing you everything you could become. Every dream you've postponed because it wasn't practical. Every talent you haven't developed because it wasn't profitable. Every skill you haven't learned because it wasn't necessary. Every relationship you haven't built because it wasn't convenient. Every adventure you haven't taken because it wasn't safe. Every conversation you haven't had because it wasn't comfortable. Every boundary you haven't crossed because it wasn't approved. Every version of yourself you haven't met because meeting him would require leaving who you are now. And time is not neutral. Time is not waiting for you to get ready. Time is not holding your place in line while you work up the courage to step forward. While you're sitting in your cage, debating whether it's time to leave, time is moving. Opportunities are passing. Your body is aging. Your energy is declining. Your window of possibility is narrowing. The door that's open today might be closed tomorrow. The chance you're not taking now might not be available next year. The person you could become at 30 is different from the person you could become at 40, which is different from the person you could become at 50. Every day you delay is a day you can't get back. Every year you postpone is a year of experience, growth, and discovery that you forfeit. Every decade you waste is a decade of potential that dies unexplored. But here's what the cage doesn't want you to know. The door has always been open. It was never locked. There are no guards. There are no alarm systems. There's no one standing between you and your freedom except you. You could leave anytime you want. You could walk out right now, today, this moment, and begin the process of discovering who you really are and what you're really capable of. The only thing keeping you inside is your own choice, your own fear, your own attachment to the familiar, your own addiction to comfort, your own story about why you can't, shouldn't, won't. The cage has taught you to fear the outside. It's shown you all the dangers, all the uncertainties, all the ways you could fail. It's painted vivid pictures of worst-case scenarios, of financial ruin, of social rejection, of personal humiliation, of professional failure. It's convinced you that the world outside is hostile, unpredictable, unforgiving. It's made you believe that you're not equipped to handle real challenges, that you don't have what it takes to succeed without the safety net, that you're better off settling for guaranteed mediocrity than risking spectacular failure. But it's never shown you what you could gain, the strength you could build by facing real challenges, the confidence you could develop by overcoming actual obstacles, the resilience you could create by surviving genuine difficulties, the character you could forge by choosing courage over comfort. It's never shown you the life you could create if you were willing to be uncomfortable for a while, the relationships you could build if you were vulnerable, the career you could have if you were brave, the impact you could make if you were bold, the person you could become if you were committed to growth over security. Most men die in their cages. They live their entire lives wondering what if, but never finding out. They take their potential to the grave, unexplored and unrealized. They spend their final years not regretting the things they did, but the things they didn't do, the chances they didn't take, the dreams they didn't pursue, the person they never became. They die with their music still. Inside them, as Oliver Wendell Holmes said, They die with their book unwritten, their business unstarted, their adventure untaken, their love unexpressed, their courage untested. But not you, because you're hearing this message, and something inside you is stirring. Something that's been quiet for too long is starting to wake up. Something that's been dormant is beginning to remember what it felt like to be alive. The voice that used to whisper about dreams and possibilities before you. Learn to ignore it. The part of you that used to believe you could do anything before you learned all the reasons why you couldn't. The man you were before the cage convinced you to settle, before you learned to want less, before you decided that practical was more important than passionate. That man is still there, buried beneath years of compromise and accommodation, beneath layers of should and shouldn't, beneath the weight of other people's expectations and your own limiting beliefs. But he's still there, waiting, watching, hoping you'll remember who you used to be before you decided to play it safe. He remembers what it felt like to dream big. He remembers what it felt like to believe that anything was possible. He remembers what it felt like to be hungry for more than just comfort, to want something more than just security, to need something more than just survival. He's the part of you that gets excited about possibilities instead of worried about problems. The part that sees opportunities instead of obstacles. The part that asks, what if it works, instead of what if it doesn't. Leaving the cage isn't about being reckless. It's not about quitting your job tomorrow without a plan, abandoning your responsibilities, or making impulsive decisions that hurt the people you care about. It's about being honest about what you really want beneath all the layers of should and shouldn't. Honest about what you're capable of when you stop limiting yourself to what feels safe. Honest about the price you're paying for comfort, the cost of playing it small, the expense of settling for less. It's about recognizing that the life you're living might be good, but good is the enemy of great. And you weren't put here to be good. You weren't designed for mediocrity. You weren't created to be comfortable. You were put here to see what you're truly capable of, to discover what happens when you stop holding back, to find out who you become when you stop playing it safe, to learn what you can accomplish when you stop managing risk and start taking it. The first step out of the cage is admitting you're in one. Stop calling it stability. Stop calling it responsibility. Stop calling it being realistic. Call it what it is, a choice to stay small because staying small feels safe. A decision to limit yourself because limitation feels manageable. A commitment to mediocrity because mediocrity feels secure. Acknowledge that you've been trading your potential for predictability, that you've been choosing comfort over courage, that you've been prioritizing safety over significance, that you've been settling for less than you're capable of because more than you're capable of feels scary. The second step is remembering what you wanted before you learned to want less, before you started being realistic, before you convinced yourself that dreams are for other people, that extraordinary is for other people, that greatness is for other people. What did you want to do before you learnt it was impractical? What did you want to become before you learnt it was unlikely? What did you want to create before you learnt it was unrealistic? What did you want to experience before you learnt it was irresponsible? That younger version of you wasn't naive. He was optimistic. He wasn't unrealistic. He was ambitious. He wasn't foolish. He was fearless. And somewhere along the way, you convinced him that his dreams were too big, his expectations too high, his vision too grand. You taught him to shrink his dreams to fit his fears, instead of expanding his courage to match his dreams. The third step is the hardest. You have to walk through the open door. You have to choose uncertainty over comfort, growth over safety, possibility over predictability, the unknown over the familiar, the challenging over the easy, the meaningful over the comfortable. You have to trade your comfortable cage for an uncomfortable freedom. And here's what happens when you do. At first, it's terrifying. The world outside the cage is bigger than you remembered, brighter, more demanding, more uncertain. The problems are real. The challenges are genuine. The risks are actual. You'll face rejection you haven't felt in years because you've been avoiding situations where rejection was possible. You'll encounter failure you've forgotten how to handle because you've been limiting yourself to endeavors where failure was unlikely. You'll feel incompetent in ways you haven't since you were learning new things because you've been staying in your area of expertise where competence was guaranteed. You'll experience self-doubt you've been avoiding because you've been staying in situations where confidence was easy. But you'll also start to remember what it feels like to be truly awake, to face each day not knowing exactly what will happen, to solve problems you've never faced before, to discover strengths you didn't know you had, to develop capabilities you've never needed before. You'll remember what it feels like to be excited about the future instead of just comfortable with the present, to be energized by challenges instead of drained by routine, to be motivated by possibility instead of paralyzed by fear. You start to realize the cage wasn't protecting you from failure. It was protecting you from success. Because success requires risk. It requires uncertainty. It requires the willingness to be uncomfortable, to be vulnerable, to be challenged. Success requires you to bet on yourself when the outcome is uncertain, to commit to growth when growth is painful, to choose the harder path when the easier path is available, to do what's necessary even when you don't feel like it. Most importantly, you realize that the person who can thrive outside the cage was always inside you. The cage didn't create safety. It created the illusion of safety while slowly killing the very thing that makes life worth living. Your potential to grow, to contribute, to create, to love, to lead, to inspire, to impact. Your potential to become someone you can be proud of, someone you can respect, someone who makes a difference. The cage didn't protect that potential. It imprisoned it. It kept it small, contained, manageable, safe, and ultimately wasted. But the moment you step outside, that potential starts to expand. It starts to breathe. It starts to grow. It starts to become real. You discover that you're stronger than you thought, more capable than you believed, more resilient than you imagined, more creative than you assumed, more courageous than you expected. You find out that the person you could become is more interesting, more alive, more fulfilled, more impactful than the person you've been, that the life you could create is more meaningful, more exciting, more satisfying than the life you've been living. So here's the question that will define the rest of your life. Will you stay in your comfortable cage, or will you step into uncomfortable freedom? Will you keep trading your potential for security, or will you finally bet on yourself? Will you continue choosing the familiar over the meaningful, or will you start choosing growth over comfort? Will you die wondering what could have been, or will you live discovering what actually is possible when you stop? Limiting yourself to what feels safe. The door is open. It's always been open. The key is in your hand. It's always been in your hand. The only question is, are you ready to walk through it? Your cage is comfortable. Your routine is predictable. Your life is safe. But your dreams are outside. Your potential is outside. Your purpose is outside. Your power is outside. The person you're meant to become is outside. The choice is yours. It's always been yours, and it's time to choose. Step out of the cage. Stop settling for comfortable. Stop choosing safe over significant. Stop trading your potential for predictability. The world doesn't need another person playing it safe. The world needs you operating at your full capacity. The world needs your unique contribution, your specific gifts, your particular vision. But first, you need to leave your cage. The door is open. Your future is waiting. The person you're meant to become is calling. It's time to answer.